Hello, everyone. My name is John Toivonen. I am 43 years old, and I have the privilege, the honor, and the opportunity to tell you guys my aortic dissection survival story. So thank you for tuning in today. I am so deeply humbled by this opportunity, and I can't wait to take you on this journey over the course of however many minutes that we have here today. So first of all, once again, I'm 43 years old. I had an aortic dissection when I was 41, October 23rd of 2019. So my life beforehand, um, ate good. I was very involved with mother's hockey in the community. I coached football and track for a number of years and just did a lot of different things. Um, Pretty normal lifestyle. My family history, my dad has had heart issues, but nothing ever anything like I've ever experienced. Um, and everyone has a unique story when it comes to aortic dissection, and this is definitely another unique story. So let me get in a little bit more to what happened to me that day and what transpired over the next few weeks and months. So October 23rd of 2019, I woke up that day pretty normal, except for my wife recalls that I had complained that I felt like I couldn't breathe, like I couldn't catch my breath, and also like I couldn't clear my throat. I didn't think anything of it. It wasn't really alarming to me. I didn't think I need to go to the hospital for anything. I just went about my day. I went to work that day. My wife and I had owned a restaurant at the time, so went to work that day pretty normal. And then I actually went and coached football and was tossing the football around with my high school kids and just having a good time. So I went to our restaurant afterwards and decided to have some dinner, and I needed to bring my little kids home. At the time, they were 5 and 7. So upon getting ready to leave at about 6 o'clock in the evening, I kind of hurried them out the back door, got them buckled in, got my truck started, and then I decided to go back in to say goodbye to my wife. And I grabbed the door handle to go back in, and I felt like somebody took a dull knife and stabbed me in my abdomen and like almost ripped right up my chest. It was an unbearable pain, and I thought it was heartburn. And I started to walk into the kitchen and realized that it wasn't heartburn. And things started to go blank. I ended up keeling over right in the middle of the kitchen. And that was the last thing I remember until I got to the hospital. Fortunately, our restaurant was about 2 blocks away from the ambulance garage. So they were there very, very quickly and got me to the emergency room in our local town, which is in northern Minnesota. And that day was a perfect storm of everyone that was involved with my situation is the reason why I'm still here today. There were 3 doctors at Grand Itasca that took care of me. One was a surgeon for my mom. Another, my daughter and his daughter played hockey together. And the last one I cross-country skied with in high school. So very small town. They got me patched up enough to where they were able to send me off to Duluth, Minnesota, which had a pretty good heart surgery area. They were very familiar with aortic dissections, and my aortic dissection was a type A, so it was ascending. When I went into the ER, I was actually diagnosed with cardiac tamponade, which there was fluid around my heart and it actually stopped. So I got I got life flighted over to Duluth, and when I was being hauled off of the helicopter into the surgery room, the first face I see is a kid that I used to coach in football. He actually ran the bypass machine on me, so that was pretty crazy. The surgeon explained what was going on. Like I said, I was kind of in and out. And then the next thing I remember, I woke up to somebody playing the Minnesota Vikings game in my ear. It was Thursday evening. They were playing, and it was just starting the fourth quarter. I can remember it pretty vividly. So the events that transpired in between there, um, they started to repair my aorta, and then my valve, my aortic valve, actually tore in half from all the damage that I experienced. So they was so damaged that they actually had to replace it with a mechanical valve. So I have a carbon fiber mechanical valve. So yes, I am on warfarin for the rest of my life. And they were able to repair the dissection. But then from the trauma that I had faced, I actually had heart failure on the right side of my heart. So they decided to do a bypass. Um, so they bypassed an artery to get my heart fully going again, but they couldn't stop the bleeding in my heart. The RN actually came out and talked with my wife and said, basically, you need to talk to a chaplain. He's not going to survive. Somehow I kept fighting, um, and they were able to get the bleeding to stop in my heart, but then they couldn't get my heart shocked into the correct rhythm. They actually had to start it and stop it 3 times before it finally got in the correct rhythm. So once they got me all situated and everything ready to go, that was about 11 and a half hours of surgery. So I spent the next 12 hours intubated in ICU. And like I said, I finally was able to come to a little bit listening to the Vikings game, but I still had this tube down my throat and wanted to tear it out. But I had to make it till the end of the fourth quarter. Right? So she had it up to my ear. I listened to the rest of the Vikings game, and then the tube was able to come out. I spent the next 4 days in the ICU. I was unable to eat. All they gave me was ice chips. It was a pretty humbling experience knowing that I had just survived a crazy event, but I was so drugged up that I was pretty high on the drugs that they had gave me, so I wasn't truly grasping what reality was at the time. So I just was enjoying my time being in the hospital. I spent the next 10 days in the hospital. I actually got out on Friday, November 1st, and I was completely miserable and uncomfortable for the rest of the day, not being in the hospital. I was full of fluid. I gained 40 pounds in the hospital of fluid. I was actually hadn't taken oxycodone in 12 hours. So I was on 10 milligrams every 4 hours for 10 days straight. And anybody that's been on oxycodone knows when you get cut off like that, you start going through withdrawals. So I was very uncomfortable when I got home. I couldn't find a space to lay down so I could sleep. And in the middle of the night, I started searching online for remote controlled recliners, and I found one, and I still have it to this day. It's still my recharge station. I've slept in it for many months. It's a great tool to have, along with my heart pillow. I still sleep with my heart pillow every night, and that is basically what happened to me in my first open heart surgery. So because of what happened to me there, it actually turned around, and 4 months later, I had to have another open heart surgery. And initially, they thought that it was just a leak in my repair. So my surgeon said, we're just going to go in there, we're going to throw a stitch in there, and it's going to be fine. And he literally said it like that. He wasn't a guy that was really all about the medical jargon. He was kind of your down-to-earth guy. So they did a TEE on me the night before, or excuse me, just moments before they actually did perform the second surgery. And this was in February. I had declining health all throughout the winter. I could barely walk from my truck to the house without getting out of breath. So when they opened up my chest, they realized that it wasn't a leak. What had happened is the artery that I had bypassed in my chest actually started working again, the old one. And the new one shriveled up and started spitting clots out all around my heart. and basically was told that my surgeon, who was in his late 50s, early 60s, had never seen that happen before. Um, in fact, they were shocked if I would have waited any longer that to go in, that I probably wouldn't be here today. It was even more of a miracle, they said, than my aortic dissection, which is extremely hard to believe. Um, it it was really humbling to wake up and hear that, to say we've never seen this happen to anyone before. So it once again opened my eyes, but immediately I felt a million times better, and that was really the start of my recovery. Um, it took me another 4 months before I even was able to go back to work. You hear all the time people get denied Social Security disability and things like that because their cardiologist or doctor clears them to go back to work. But anybody that's been through an aortic dissection or traumatic experience like we have knows that it's much longer than that, mentally and physically. Um, so fast forward 2 weeks after my second open heart surgery. During my surgery, they actually punctured one of my veins in my arm, and I was putting something on a shelf at night, and I felt a tear in my arm and what felt like the worst cramp ever, and my bicep swelled up pretty huge, and it was excruciating pain. And my wife and I went to the emergency room about 1:30 in the morning, and they did an ultrasound on it and realized that one of my veins had split open, and I was in the beginning stages of compartment syndrome, which they were extremely fearful that I was going to lose my arm. So now here's three separate events in the matter of 4 months that are completely unique to anyone, that all happened to me, which was insane. I ended up recovering from that. I got mobility in my arm about 5 weeks later. Um, and the road to recovery really started after that. So after the ups and downs of the medication and trying to figure out where I'm at and getting my my blood pressure correct and getting my heart rate correct, I'm finally on a dose of medication with all the medications that I'm on, that I've been on since about April of 2020. So this all happened pre-pandemic. In fact, when I went in for my last surgery, for my arm surgery, about a week and a half later is when they shut everything down. So I had the ability to have my wife, my family there all day, every day. So I was fortunate in that. And I feel for everyone that had no family. I know a guy that had a valve replacement that they had to talk to his family over an iPad. And it is it's unfortunate. And I was very fortunate to have the situation that I had. Afterwards, the healing process, like I said, mentally and physically, is still going on to this day. I feel like I'm at a point where I'm finally 2 years or almost 3 years afterwards where I was before the surgery. Um, to a certain extent, there's other mitigating factors that keep me from doing the things that I did before surgery that I just can't do anymore. So I have limitations, but um, every time I get dizzy, every time I have a weird twinge of pain in my chest, every time I have a pain in my back, it's you think, is this it? Is this the next one? Um, just because of all the weird things that have happened to me, I went into the ER 4 times after my surgery, and every single time I was shipped off to another hospital and had to spend days in the hospital. So a huge accomplishment for me was when I went into the ER and I actually got to sit in the waiting room and I got to go home. So mentally on me, it was like a turning point. So I've hit all these different milestones in my health that have made me another step in the right direction towards being healed from this condition. Still to this day, like I said, I have every different thought when I have a different pain, when I feel differently, when my blood pressure is up, when my blood pressure is down, when my heart rate is up, when my heart beats loudly against my chest. I feel it all day, every day. And I know that everybody that I've talked to that have been through a situation like me with an aortic dissection, everybody's story is different. Everyone's unique. Nobody's is the same. And I've tried to search and find a mortality rate for what has happened to me, and it just doesn't exist because nobody else has had what has happened to me happen. But I've also talked to other survivors that I had nothing like they had, and nobody else has. It's amazing what modern medicine has done for our community. Um, it's a pretty humbling badge to wear to be a part of the Zipper Club, but it's not one that I wish upon anyone. It's just, it's something that has been presented to us, and we are the chosen few that have had the ability to survive. I keep having people, whenever I tell my story, everyone always says, "Man, you're destined for something really great." I haven't found that yet, but I have a feeling that someday I will, and I think someday everyone will. Every one of us that are survivors. So I I appreciate all the time that Aortic Hope has given me today. I appreciate everything that they're doing and the effort to try to find what causes aortic dissection. I appreciate all the survivors out there. You guys are amazing. You're awesome. Everyone that I've connected with through Facebook, um, through different social media platforms, through phone calls, through emails, meeting in person. There's lots of people that have helped me just as much as I feel that I have helped them. So I I am open for questions. If there are people out there that want to ask some questions about my story, about what to expect afterwards, um, about what to expect from surgery. Um, I've only had one opportunity to go into a open heart surgery that was planned, so I kind of have two different views on both situations. So if there's any questions, um, so the difference that I found between having a surprise open heart surgery and a known open heart surgery. The surprise open heart surgery, I mean, I had no clue what was going on. I didn't even know when I was going into it that I was having an open heart surgery. I had no clue. I was so in and out. I didn't really know what happened to me until I woke up. And like I said, I was so drugged up. It took me a while to actually grasp what had happened to me. When I went in for my second one, I was very clear, very conscious. I just knew that my blood pressure was really high, and something was going on. And so when they said they saw fluid around my heart again, and it looked like a leak, I had 2 days to prepare for my next open heart surgery. And it was probably the first time I'd ever broke down and cried in front of my wife. Um, it was a very emotional time, but I had I was actually in the ICU so they could monitor my blood pressure, and I was so bored because I was just sitting there waiting for the next morning to have my open heart surgery that I actually got up and started walking around the ICU. And I had people that were looking at some of the nurses and doctors were looking at me like, what's going on? And I said, I had got to apologize. I understand you probably don't have a lot of people, a lot of patients that walk around in the ICU. So they were taken back by that a little bit. So, um, but I felt at peace the next morning when my surgeon came in to talk to me about what they were doing, and I got this smile on my face, and I knew I was in good hands. I knew everything was going to be okay, and it was. It's just that when I woke up with a tube in my mouth, they looked at me and said, it wasn't what we thought. So that was the biggest difference is just thinking I knew what was going on beforehand, and then actually finding out it was something else. But at least I knew, and I felt comfort in the fact that I was I was going to be okay. So so a little bit about, kind of PTSD with my surgeries. Um, it's always the thought is always in the back of my mind that here it comes, like here's the next one. I remember the first time thinking that is I took a big drink of water, and you get that bubble that's stuck in your wherever in your chest. I thought the second time I thought it was coming again because it felt like that pressure leading up to that tearing feeling. So anytime that happens to me, when you get kind of like a burp stuck, it feels like here we go again, and that's a sometimes a daily occurrence for myself. Um, so it really weighs on you, and every once in a while, just thinking about thinking about what had happened to me, and that the fact that I might not have been here, um, it really weighs on me too. I really get emotional sometimes when I'm at my daughter's hockey tournaments, or just participating in something that I really enjoy. It really hits me for a minute, and then I get emotional because I just think I shouldn't be here. There is no reason, absolutely no reason I should be here. The timing of the events that happened to me was so perfect that there's no reason I should be here right now. So every day when I wake up is I always have a constant reminder of, I go back to that event and I remember what that feeling was like. And whenever I get there, whenever I get to that point where I have so much anxiety from that, and if I feel off or anything, I go back to that recliner that I slept in. And that is my charging point. I sit in that recliner and it makes me feel good. It brings me back to a time of healing and not a time of pain. Um, and then also sleeping with my heart pillow. I still do it every night. I got two of them. My dog chewed up one of them, but the original one I still have, and I sleep with it every single night. And if I wake up in the middle of the night and it's not underneath my arm, I have to search the bed until I find it, and I grab it and I put it back under my arm. So those are the things that really comfort me in times in which I'm thinking back to that event and thinking back to that, it could have been all over. And it's a good feeling when I have those things and I have those opportunities to recharge myself. So the advice I give to survivors is it's just be patient. Don't try to push things. Like I said, it took me 8 months from my first event to be able to get back to work, to be able to get back to thinking that I was maybe back to normal. Um, I spent many nights, many days with blood pressure all over the place, with my heart rate all over the place. Trust the process, but also be an advocate. Have an advocate. Have somebody there with you. My wife was my biggest advocate, and she was able to reassure me that I was confident in the decisions that I was making for my medication, for my healing process. Don't be afraid to challenge the doctors to say, I don't think that's working. I was on metoprolol when I first got off, when I first got out of the hospital, and it gave me such bad dizzy spells that to the point where I thought I was going to pass out. And my heart rate, yeah, it was low because it was a beta blocker, but it just was not working correctly for me. It wasn't affecting my blood pressure. It was only affecting my heart rate, and it was not good. And I started investigating a little bit and found Coreg, carvedilol, and found that the side effects were very, very limited. And I just advocated for myself that I don't think metoprolol is working, and I need to be on this other drug. You need to try it. And they switched the drug, and I'm still on it to this day. And I have very little side effects from it, and it's been fantastic. So, you know, just be an advocate for yourself, or have someone be an advocate for you, and don't be afraid to speak up. I always am very, very open with my cardiologist as to everything that's going on with me. If I'm feeling off, I will send a message to her on my chart or email or whatever and say, these are the symptoms that I'm having. What should I do? And if she feels like it is something that I should be seen about, they'll make an appointment for me right away. So be very vocal about everything that's going on with your body. Don't be ashamed. You're a survivor. You're somebody that is still here for a purpose. So you really need to speak up, and you need to be not afraid to say, hey, this is going on with my body. All right. Well, I want to send my appreciation to everybody that is listening in live, and anybody that may see this video later. Um, it's an extreme honor for me to tell my story, my survivor story. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are not willing to share their story, and that's okay. I want you to know that I can hopefully be a voice for you, and hopefully somebody can learn from what my experience was, and and grow from it. I want to thank the awesome people at Aortic Hope for giving me this opportunity to tell my story. I love talking about it. It's a part of my life. It's always going to be a part of my life. So I with very, very humble to have this opportunity to talk about it. So thank you to everyone that has listened. Thank you to Aortic Hope, and keep surviving out there.